What's up guys, Readiness Reviews here with you again. This is a Mannlicher M95 rifle from Royal Tiger Imports, and it happens to be the third example of this particular RTI Milsurp that has made its way into my hands. Previously on the channel we have taken a look at both their B grade and standard grade examples of these rifles. We now have one more example to compare and contrast against the other two to give you guys a really good idea of what you can expect condition-wise from these very historic World War I Austro-Hungarian military surplus firearms. Before we take a closer look, I want to remind you guys to give this video a thumbs up if you like seeing this military surplus-centric firearms content here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And let me know your opinion of Royal Tiger Imports down in the comments. Due to some kind of mess up on Royal Tiger Imports' side, they accidentally sent me this rifle along with a recent order of mine. In past videos, we have looked at a B grade example of one of these rifles and a standard grade. But since I didn't order the rifle that we're looking at today, I'm not quite sure what its grade with RTI was. Now, judging by the condition of this handguard that's sort of been wired together and the missing wood along our receiver, I'm going to assume this is also a B grade rifle. My two previous Mannlicher M95 long rifles from Royal Tiger Imports were Steyr manufactured examples. Steyr is of course in Austria, but this most recent example was manufactured in Budapest. During the First World War, Austria and Hungary were essentially one country, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the standard infantry arm of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was the Mannlicher M95 rifle. These examples from Royal Tiger Imports, in the hands of Italy, made their way into Africa after World War I. Many of these rifles that Royal Tiger Imports has will have an AOI marking on the stock. That is the marking of Italian East Africa. After World War I, Italy made moves to colonize large portions of Africa, and to arm and defend those new colonies, they put these Austro-Hungarian rifles back into service. And these specific examples from Royal Tiger Imports have spent about a century in Africa where they saw extremely hard use and weren't cared for very well. So although they are historically significant, they are typically in super rough condition. Now, as far as my latest example here goes, the metal finish all over is quite worn and looks to have possibly been wire wheeled at some point. Unfortunately, we see that quite a bit with Royal Tiger rifles. In general, the stock is pretty battered, but I wouldn't say necessarily unserviceable. We do have some significant cracks through the wrist area here. That's something to be concerned about. The toe of the stock here actually has an old repair. We can see where there was a piece of wood spliced in and a dowel installed to hold that together. But that repair looks to be separating a little bit. It's pretty common for these rifles from Ethiopia to have various nails and tacks driven into the stock, or maybe even some trench art-like carvings. This Budapest example does not have that Italian East Africa AOI marking in the stock, but my other two examples do. Our rear sling swivel is missing a screw and is being held together with some wire. The front band is missing its sling loop altogether, and the screw is backed out all weird. This front handguard has a pretty severe crack running all the way through it. It is heavily worn and even missing some wood, but someone has done their best to mend things together with some copper wire there. We're actually missing a screw and this little metal piece right behind the rear sight. Our front end hardware is all present, and those screws are actually in pretty good shape compared to some of the others I've seen. Same goes for the middle band, not bad at all. The action on this thing is extremely stiff. This thing needs to be lubed up something serious. The bolt is grime covered. Inside of the receiver, very dirty. But that is what I've come to expect from these rifles. The serial number on the barrel does not match the serial number on the receiver, so that means this was a replacement barrel at some point. And there's a big piece of wood missing from alongside the receiver here, causing the receiver to look like it's sitting up very high. Being the newest example from Royal Tiger Imports, its import stamp is on the receiver. It is quite small. IO Incorporated, Steyr, Austria, Hungary, M95, 8x50R. On my other two examples here, the import marking was at the muzzle end, which I far prefer. Who knows, maybe they had to do that because the receiver and the barrel have mismatched serial numbers. After inspecting three of these rifles, I think I can say with confidence that if you are considering ordering one of these from Royal Tiger Imports, do not expect to receive a shooter, because in general the bores on these particular rifles tend to be in very poor shape. RTI's rifles are chambered in the original 8x50R cartridge, and that ammo has been nearly impossible to get your hands on for a very long time. Luckily, we do have companies like Milsurp Munitions that are getting the ball rolling on producing some of this more obscure ammunition. Of my three M95 long rifles, this one has the best bore by a long shot. And so I figured it was best to do the majority of our shooting with this rifle. I took a couple single shots here first just to see where we were at on paper. I'm aiming dead center at the big red dot. And then you can see our round hit between two targets, and it was a keyhole. And I had poor extraction on this case. Of course, that's going to be a rifle issue, not an ammo issue. After that first shot, I remembered that the sight slider was missing on this rifle, and so I decided to stand up the ladder sight to maybe improve the point of impact just a little bit. Loading up another single round here. For this next shot, I'm moving down one target. And there it is, a nice clean hole, not a keyhole, and very close to my point of aim. After that last one, I was getting pretty excited, and I geared up here for a full 3-round group, shooting at our center target here. The first round of this group left a nice clean hole just north of the target center, really a good hit. But then things kind of go down the drain. Our second hit was super far south, way off target, and a keyhole. And then our third round here was no doubt a keyhole as well, and completely missed the paper altogether. Keep in mind, this is a massive target. So aside from that first round, that very last group was complete trash. I did notice that between each round, my rear sight was moving around a little bit, and that might have played into the poor accuracy that we got. So I set up for another 3-shot group here with our B-grade rifle, making sure that the sight was returned to the right position after each round. Still aiming for our middle target. First round, super low, and a keyhole. The second round of this group was a return to positivity. It kind of fell between two targets here, but left a nice clean, non-keyhole hole. And then as I've come to expect with this rifle, the third round was a wild one. And you can see it here, shooting down some leaves way off the target. I decided to make a switch to my standard grade Steyr Mannlicher from RTI. This rifle has a much smoother action, but was missing the sight slider just like the B grade. And I would consider the bore on this rifle to be in worse condition than my B grade. The muzzle is very worn with an ovaled crown. Point of aim is still the middle target. And we have a keyhole round, low and to the right. Round number 2 was completely lobbed off target. Again, into the brush, destroying a little leaf there. After that one, I decided it was just a waste of ammo to shoot anymore with this rifle. I'll give you guys a little muzzle comparison using an 8x56R cartridge. This is my original $300 standard grade example, and the muzzle on this one is clearly worn and actually an odd shape. If we insert this 8x56R, it does stop right there, giving us some copper showing. Look at how this thing wiggles back and forth due to it being misshapen. My B grade example here is in much worse external condition, but by all indications, the bore is actually nicer than my standard condition one. If we do that same test with this one, there is a good bit more copper showing, and it doesn't wiggle back and forth like the other one did. On this newest Budapest example, the muzzle is literally rusty and pitted, and it really eats this bullet almost down to the case. Since this is an 8x56R cartridge as opposed to an 8x50R cartridge, it doesn't fit the same way the original ammo would. The bore on this one is super shot out, and I completely expected to keyhole like crazy. As sort of an interesting side note, I will say that one of my viewers told me that when they received their rifle from Royal Tiger Imports, the bolt was stuck. When they got the bolt open, there was a Russian 7.62x54R steel case stuck in the chamber. And so perhaps at some point in these rifles past, they were fired using Russian Mosin Nagant ammunition. And I most certainly do not recommend anybody try that for yourself. Now, as far as how the bore looks, on this Hungarian example, it is a bona fide sewer pipe. It looks pitted and awful, super dark, pretty much complete trash, with virtually no hope of any kind of restoration. The bore on my B grade example here doesn't actually look all that bad though. And the bore on my standard grade example here is sort of in between those two, but I've seen a lot worse as far as the overall rifling throughout the bore goes. So with RTI, if we're directly comparing one of their standard grade examples versus one of their B grade examples, you can expect a much nicer rifle externally with their standard grade, but the bore is a 100% crapshoot. Both the B grades and the standard grades may be missing hardware like sling loops. Your screw heads may be completely deformed like these, and you can still expect very worn metal surfaces. As a whole, I really like these Mannlicher straight pull rifles. The action here is very unique, and these firearms are super historically relevant. They are, however, probably the worst condition rifles that Royal Tiger Imports is offering, as far as I've seen. But for the most part, that comes at a very attractive price point. Most recently, B-grade examples like this one were only $150. And even if you are buying a really long paperweight for that kind of money, the history alone is worth it to me. But again, do not expect to get a shooter, even if you're shelling out the extra money, for a standard great example. I just released a full video on Milsurp Munitions 8x50R ammunition for these rifles. If you would like to see that review, I'll link it for you right here on the screen and down in the description. Finally getting to shoot these rifles was super cool. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. That helps it out with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future military surplus firearms content. And let me know down in the comments if you think these M95 rifles are worth what RTI is asking. I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.